Hi class, my name is Mr. Wong, and today we'll be discussing fractions. Specifically, we're going to be discussing how to add fractions. But first, we need to know what is a fraction. So a fraction is a number, any number, over another number. And this could also be a number divided by another number. But we'll get into that part, the dividing part, later on in the semester. But for now, it's just any number on top of another number. So in a fraction, there are two components, the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator, which is the bottom number. This is very important to know the distinction, so I highly advise you guys writing it down. So in this fraction, the numerator is 1 and the denominator is 2. So in other examples, 7 over 9, 9 is the denominator and 7 is the numerator. And for this example, 3 is the numerator and 5 is the denominator. So now we're going to get into how to add fractions. So when you're adding fractions, the first thing we need to know is, are the denominators the same? That is the only way you can add fractions. You cannot add fractions when they look something like this, where the denominators are different. We cannot add them, but we can learn how to add them later on. So in this case, 4 is the denominator in both cases, so we could add them. But when we're adding, the denominator stays the same once both of the fractions, the denominators are the exact same, it stays the same when you're answering it. So in this case, you would add across from 3 to 6, and that's 9, and be over 4. We are not adding 4 plus 4 like the top numbers. 3 plus 6, we added those. But in this case, 4, it just stays the same. So the answer in this case would be 3 plus 6 is 9 over 4. So once you get the common denominator, it stays the same at the end of the problem when you're answering. So like we mentioned earlier, we cannot add if they do not have the same denominator. So we have to try to find the least common denominator in both the fractions so that we can properly add them. And the reason why we need to find the least common denominator is because it makes it easier for us in the future and it saves a lot more work. So in this case, the least common denominator for 2 and 3 would be 6. But they both go into 18. That is not the least common denominator. The least common denominator is 6. So if we made it to 18, it would just mean more multiplication, more math, and more work. So we always try to find the least common denominator. So in this case, it'd be 6. So now what do? We found the least common denominator, but now we have to apply it. So we have to make each fraction have the bottom number be 6, the least common denominator. So in this fraction, we'll be multiplying the top and the bottom term by 2. And then this fraction will be multiplying the top and the bottom term by 3. So in this case, it'd be 2 times 2 equals 4 divided over 3 times 2 equals 6. And then it'd be 3 times 3 equals 9 over 3 times 2 equals 6. So then they would both these fractions would have the denominator of 6. And then you would add straight across. And remember, the denominator stays the same. So in this case, what would the least common denominator be? It would be 20 in this case. So to get to 20, we would have to multiply this fraction by 4, the top and the bottom number, and then this fraction by 5. So now I'm going to give you guys practice problems to do on your own. And I'll be going around in the class to make sure you guys are doing it properly. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. So remember, we have to find the least common denominator first, and then we could add straight across. So these are the problems you guys will be doing. And in some cases, you will have the number be greater than the denominator, and that's okay. Later on in this class, we're gonna this is called an improper fraction. We are going to be reducing this to a mixed number looking something like this. As you can see, as you guys can see, it looks something like this. But for now, we're just adding. So if the numerator is bigger than the denominator, that is okay. Later on in the class, we're going to be learning how to reduce that. So please work on those problems. And in this case, I would in a real class setting, I would give them more problems to do. And and more interaction between when introducing a new topic. So, and then I would have problems set up to reduce improper fractions to mixed numbers. And then I would go to in-depth explanation on what is an improper fraction and a mixed number. And this will segue into my next lesson, which would be subtracting fractions. So they would already have hopefully mastery of adding fractions, find the least common denominator in the fractions, and then reducing improper fractions to mixed numbers to hopefully have them successfully transition to subtracting fractions. And for their homework, I would implement all these in their homework, which is adding fractions and then reducing the fraction, the improper, if it is an improper fraction, to mixed numbers. So thank you guys for listening.